If you're like most people, the idea of sales can stress you out or it can be overwhelming. I mean, we need sales and we want sales, but the last thing we want to do is occur as a used car salesman. It makes me cringe just thinking about it. I don't want to be that guy at all. Like you, I have a lot to offer and I want people to know about it. And I want them to want to buy my stuff. I'll be sharing with you my 5-step sales strategy so you can close more deals, be comfortable in the process, and avoid getting clients that you don't want that are not a good fit for your business. Hey everybody, this is Antoine Dupont, and on my channel we talk everything business and marketing to help you grow. My sales strategy approach for the last 20 years has been consultative selling. It's basically a system and the art of asking the right question and spending more time listening than talking. Ultimately, consultative selling is more like, are we a good fit for one another? So it's not about wanting to close all sales, but rather having a friendly conversation to discover whether we are a good fit for one another. And let's face it, we don't want clients that are looking for something that we don't sell. I don't have the time trying to please someone who's not a good fit. And consultative selling gives us that. It gives us a way to feel mutually comfortable in the process, with no pressure to get the sale, no false promise to live up to, and it's easy to teach and repeat. So the first step in my sales strategy is to set up an upfront contract. An upfront contract is a way by which the salesperson, as in you or me, and the prospect on the other side agree in advance of how the meeting is going to take place. The 4 elements of the upfront contract are: 1, what is the purpose of the meeting? 2, what is the prospect's agenda and expectations? 3, what are the salesperson's agendas and expectations? And 4th is what is the potential outcome of the meeting. And it really just feels better for everybody. Now, the upfront contract should be made at the first meeting you ever had with any prospect. You want to start with that. And there's a flow to set up the context of that upfront meeting. I use an acronym that is called ANOT, A-N-O-T, and it stands for appreciate, naturally, obviously, and typically. Now, I found the acronym useful when I need to remember it on the fly and I don't have my notes in front of me. But it goes something like this: I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Naturally, you're gonna have some questions for me, and obviously, I'm gonna have some questions for you. Now, typically, the way this goes is we're going to find out that we're not a good fit for each other, and we'll just call it a no. Or we'll decide that it is actually a good fit, and we'll decide what's next. Does that work for you? Now, the benefits of the upfront contract are very simple. First, it gives you the opportunity to deal with their biggest fear upfront, which is the fear of being talked into something. 2, it's going to give your prospect a sense of control. This is not a pitch. This is just a discovery. And you're going to find that a lot of people start relaxing after you explain to them the upfront contract. 3, it requires a decision at the end of each meeting. We'll decide what's next. And 4, it levels the playing fields and removes the pressure on both sides. Them from making a decision and you from closing the sale. Remember, we are here to find out if we are a good fit for each other. Now, according to a study on LinkedIn, only 2% of people close the deal after the first meeting. So trying to close the deal on the first meeting is hardly ever a good idea. So your job for the initial call or first meeting is to find out if we are a good fit for each other and if we need to have a second meeting for further discussions. So set up the context of your call up front and relax and start getting to know your prospect. The second step of my sales strategy is to identify the pain point. Here are 2 things that are super important for all of us to understand. 1, prospects buy for their reasons, not ours. And 2, not every prospect is qualified to be our customer. In other words, not all problems are right for us to fix. Some of the biggest mistakes that I've done in my career was to actually take on customers that were not a good fit for me. If your product or service is not designed to fix their pain point, then you're much better off to refer them to a colleague or just say, I'm sorry, but I'm not a good solution for you. Your prospect will thank you for your candor and your honesty, and you may actually get a commission from a referral, so that's not a bad deal. And consider this: Success is what you say no to. Don't get caught up in the 80-20 trap where you're spending 80% of your time catering to 20% of your clients that you should have taken on in the first place. And before you're trying to make a sale, know who you are. Be really clear on your own avatar. Know what you were meant to do and who you were meant to serve. That way, when you are in the process of the consultative selling strategy, you'll know exactly who is a good fit for you and who is not. And when you're looking to identify their pain, it's really important that you remember that you're trying to resolve their pain, not yours. Now, before you start talking with a prospect, it's really important that you understand what motivates sales. They are either looking for some improvements to their situation or they're trying to relieve a pain they're experiencing. And since the vast majority of people are trying to relieve a pain they're experiencing, I'm going to focus on that. Now, there are two elements of their pain. Number one, what they say. And the second thing is, how does that make them feel? And the second one, how does that make them feel, is the most important one. If you can connect your product or your service on how you will improve how they feel, you will increase your sales. Guarantee you're gonna close a lot more deals. It's really that simple. Now, here are some of the questions that I ask to uncover what is their pain. The first one is, what made you decide to contact me? Oftentimes, this is enough to open Pandora's box and they'll tell me all the issues and the problems that they had with their last service provider. Now, if that doesn't do it, then I'll ask them the next question. How was your experience with your last service provider? What worked and what didn't work? Again, this one is really effective at getting people to open up. Now, remember, they probably are talking to you because something is not working out for them, so they're just opening up about it. And your job is to discover what that is. But if that still doesn't work, then ask them this question. What are your concerns with hiring a, you fill in the blank, service provider? Now, remember this, most companies sell solutions to external problems. For example, if you're overweight, buy this widget and you will lose weight. That's an external problem. But people buy solutions for internal problems, how it feels. For example, being overweight makes me feel unhappy. And they justify it for philosophical reason, as in, I deserve to be happy. By connecting your product and services to how it will make them feel after they got it is guaranteed to close more sales. And by doing this, the added benefit will have them feel like you understand them. And all you have to do is you have to listen to their pain and how it makes them feel. My third step in my sales strategy is asking strategic questions. This may sound simple, but a lot of business owners get trapped in being experts or having the answer to everything. As a rule of thumb, you should do 30% of the talking and 70% of the listening. And I get it. Maybe most of the people who are shopping for your products or services have the same problem. You've heard it before. Think about how it feels on the receiving end. It's like you're telling your prospect that you know more about them than they do. Trust me, that's not going to drive them to say yes. They will be more likely to prove that you don't understand them, even if you were right all along. What you're doing here is building a relationship and helping them agree that you're the right solution without you having to tell them. Now, here are a couple of things to think when coming up with the right questions for your prospects. Number one, don't use buzzwords. If buzzword doesn't confuse them, it may actually take them back to the used car salesman type of deal, and it's not helpful. Talk to them like you would in a normal conversation. And two, avoid using industry-specific type of language, even if you're in the same industry. There's a fine line between problem solving and proving your point. Keeping it simple will keep the stress away from the conversation and will have them open up even more with you. So here are some of the questions that I ask my prospects when I talk to them. The first one is, so tell me exactly what you're looking for. Number one, I don't want to assume that I know exactly what they're looking for. even if I do. But I let them build a vision for what they want and for what they want to avoid. The second question that I ask is, what is it that would rock your world if you could have it? Let them dream a little. In a conversation of rocking their world, they may even tap into something that they didn't even know they wanted. And the third question I ask, which I've been using for the last few years that actually has doubled my sales, is this one. Would it be okay if instead of telling you what we do, that I told you why we do what we do? I've never had a prospect that said no to me. But then I share my vision and my mission and my core values, and I tell them why I get up in the morning. People's eyes usually light up when they hear what I'm passionate about, as opposed to how many features or widgets my solutions have. And you can see it at that moment that for many of them, that's the moment that they decide that they want to do business with you. Now, after you ask some good strategic questions, I would have some follow-up like this. Now, tell me more about this. Or give me an example of that. Or how did you learn that? Or what happened when you tried that? Now remember, this strategy is all about them. This is where you're doing 70% of the listening. The fourth step in my sales strategy is all about budget and pricing. Now, once you know that the prospect is a good fit for you, it's time to find out if you are a good fit for them. Now, when they start to ask you about pricing, it's very important that you be quick to answer and very precise. You need to know your pricing and be self-assured about it. There's nothing less reassuring than dealing with someone that is fumbling over their pricing. Now, if they don't ask, I'll usually get right to the point with the following questions. Have you established a budget for those services? What did you have in mind? Now, this can seem like a delicate question with some people. Have you ever felt like whatever number you're going to give them, that's the price that it's going to end up being, and you feel like they're taking advantage of you? So many people will give you a half-hearted answer or pretty much lie about it. But when you ask this question, make sure that it's really important that they understand where you're coming from. Like, you have multiple levels of pricing. You have small, medium, and large, or basic, mid-range, and premium. And if it depends, then tell them why it depends and tell them why one is low and why is high. One of the things that I would say is typically our pricing range from $3,500 to $10,000. But for a project like yours, it's going to round about $5,000. And then the next thing that comes out of my mouth is this: does that fit with what you had in mind? And now be quiet and observe. The next word that should come out should be out of their mouth, not yours. If they answer, not at all, I was actually thinking of spending $1,000, then it's time to cut the meeting short and refer them to one of your colleagues or send them away. But if they say yes or more or less, then it's time to discuss what is the next step. Now, here is a gentle warning. Do not discount your pricing. Any discount comes out of your profit and you'll be suffocating your growth. If you need the business and are willing to rebate, always ask for something equal to the value of the rebate. For example, if you're willing to offer a $1,000 rebate, ask for something in exchange of equal value, like barter services or publicity and advertising that is substantial enough to warrant $1,000 worth of value. Another project in the near future that you can sign now, maybe cash payment, or maybe 100% payment upfront for the $1,000 rebate. But never give a rebate for nothing in return. Now, my fifth and final step is guiding their decision and positioning the close. Now, once you've determined that this is a good fit, it's time to talk next step. At this point, chances are the deal is yours to lose. You have listened and demonstrated that you care. You understand their pains and their needs. You have asked the question to indicate that you understand the solutions and are able to get them what they want and what they need. And you have built a trusting relationship with them. You are now both invested in a mutually beneficial exchange. And if those things are true, that the only thing that could possibly get in the way are the terms of your agreement. Now, here are my suggestions once you get to that point. Recap the conversation with them leading to this point, their pain, their desire, and your promise. Next, ask them if there is anything missing. This gives them a chance to let them sink in that this is a well thought out and a safe decision to make. If there is anything missing, it will be discovered with enough time to address it before asking the sale. You will learn if there is any pushback, and likely if the pushbacks are grounded in fact or fear. That is an important thing to know upfront. It can also tell you how ready and serious they are about buying it, and it might give you insights on what it is to have them as a client. Remember, consultative selling is all about asking questions and listening to their answers. It's about having them choose for themselves that you are what they want. Now, here are some questions to ask when discussing pricing and the terms of the deal. Do you have the budget to move forward? Do you see any reasons not to move forward? Do you have enough information to make a decision? What would you like me to do now? What is the next step in the decision-making process? Is there anyone else who needs to be involved? Is there anything missing that would make a difference for you? And my favorite is that what you had in mind? Now, if you hear, well, we'll think about it or we'll get back to you, then the deal is probably dead. And it's okay, let it go. You're not going to close all the deals. But if they're still in the conversation and not yet ready to make a decision, then it's time to set up the next meeting. Remember, that's what we discussed in the upfront contract. We'll decide what's next. But don't leave it open. Get a commitment date. Get an appointment for next week on Monday at 4 p.m. We'll talk on the phone. Now remember this, only 2% of sales happen on the first meeting. And with 80% of all the deals closed between the 5th and the 8th meeting. It's really all about relationship building, and a good relationship is worth waiting for. Once the decision is made about you being a good fit and understanding is agreed on, the choice is clear. They are choosing you. You're not talking them into buying. Now here's a bonus tip. You need to know your close ratio. Nobody closes 100% of all their sales. Nobody. What you need to find out is what is your close ratio and work from there. Now in the service industry, 30 to 50% close ratio is considered super strong. 30% close ratio is considered average. 10 to 30% close ratio may need some improvements. And if your close ratio is below 10%, then you may need some training or delegate sales to someone else. But I can stress enough the value of building relationships when you're trying to make sales. Now, many people will get buyer's remorse. It's actually very common. They just wonder, have I made the right decision? So make it a habit to get in touch with your prospect within that 72 hours window after they sign the deal and check up on them. And the best way to do it is to thank them for doing business with you and reminding them that they have made a good choice in selecting you. All right, so that does it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more content like this, I would suggest that you click on my head just below and subscribe. If you got value, please give me a thumbs up. You can watch one of those two videos right there. This one is the next best for you. And until next time, ciao.